Good evening, everyone. I want to remind you that we are only here this week and next week until the end of the month. That's it. Then we have to move to another shul somewhere here in Flatbush. I don't have a...
We can stay here, talk to them.
No, we have to move out of here. So.
Okay, leave it to me for tomorrow.
KGB.
Leave it to me for tomorrow, I said.
So, Bezrat Hashem, we will announce where it's going to be. Anyway, I have to go to Israel and then to Italy, so 2 weeks I won't be here anyway. So when I come back, we'll be in a different place, Bezrat Hashem. But next week is here. We're going to speak, yesterday I spoke about Parashat Bahar. We're going to read Parashat Bahar and Bechukotay, 2 parashot. I thought maybe I can do both of them in one lecture. It was too good to be true. Barely I finished Parashat Bahar after almost 3 hours lecture yesterday. I was thinking to do both of them. Parashat Bechukotay, you can speak 100 hours straight, and it's still, you're not going to be able to cover it. So we'll do as much as we can today. We'll speak about it. This is one of the most substantial chapters on the Torah. It's a very, very strict chapter. It's definitely not for people who wants to live in a lie, or people who wants to live fake lifestyle, or people that wants to be politically correct, or people who say speak positive. All these kind of people, this parasha is not for them. Why? If they can handle regular truth, they won't be able to handle such a parasha. And this parasha, you have things that when you begin to read it, I won't be surprised if you can faint from reading what it says. And this is things that happen in the history of the Jewish nation. This is things that Hashem warned us that it may happen. We didn't take him serious enough, and it did happen. In history, it happened. There is a say in the Tanakh, it's Shlomo HaMelech wrote it, it says like this, Ivelet Adam tesalef darko ve'al Hashem iz'af libo. The foolishness of a person is turning him away from the right path, and who he will blame? Hashem. Instead of himself, he blames Hashem. So every time something happens, there are people among us who, instead of searching what we did wrong, they ask what Hashem did wrong. And that's simply kfirah. This thing being a kofir. If a person is speaking against Hashem in any way that he can imagine, even in a hint, automatically he becomes a kofir. It doesn't matter that, yes, he's religious, he has a yarmulke, he may have a beard, he shomer Shabbat, he comes to shul every day. Once a person has the nerve to blame HaKadosh Baruch Hu for anything that happens in the world, anything, to Jews, to non-Jews, earthquakes, tragedies, Holocaust, wars, missiles, cancer epidemic, millions of people in depressions, all kinds of things that the world has. If a person blames Hashem in any possible way, this person immediately becomes wicked. Not a minute later, immediately. That's why we have to be very, very careful. Why? Because when you speak against your boss at work, you have a boss, your boss makes mistakes. You have a complaint about what he does, it doesn't make you wicked. Bosses make mistakes. There are people, they sometimes do good things and sometimes make mistakes. But when you come and speak about the creator of the world, which has no limitations, his ability is perfect, and he knows everything, and he controls everything, and he sees the entire picture, and he sees all the generation, and he gave us a warning in advance, the warning named Torah. He gave us Torah. Torah, half of the Torah is warnings. If you're not going to listen to me, this is the price you're going to pay. And after all that, knowing He's Hashem, knowing He's the Creator, knowing He sees everything, knowing He cannot miss any detail, knowing He can calculate the best possible way that we can even imagine, and gave us a warning in advance, and then we have the nerve to blame him, obviously that's a very serious thing here. And again, if you blame a person, maybe you're right. Maybe you could have done it better than him. But when you come to blame the creator of the world for what is happening to us, like one fool said in his speech, I heard it. He said, we have the right to blame Hashem. We have it. I'm tired of getting all these punches and punishments. It's time we stand and we blame Hashem for what the Arabs are doing to us in Israel, and all kinds of speaking like a fool. A fool is a compliment for him. Really, in reality. That's what it is. So if a person speaks like that, immediately, there's one chair over there left. There are more chairs. Yeah. No, it's okay, good. Happy you came. So if a person falls into that trap, that's a very, very serious violation. This parasha, as you can see in a few minutes, is the best Musar lecture that a person can have. Musar means ethic, warning, encouragement, inspiration. All the above combined, that's what it means, Musar in Hebrew. Just the Torah begins, this parasha, as you can see in Shabbat, coming up Shabbat, it says, Im Bechukotay telechu, ve'et mitzvotay tishmeru v'asitem otam. It's a very common claim that people say, Rabbi, I'm religious, don't look at me like that. Don't be fooled by my jeans, or my blorit, or my gel, or my earring, or my tattoos, or the drugs. Don't be fooled by that. I'm very religious. My grandfather was a rabbi in Hungary, or in Yemen. The answer of the Torah to a person that speaks like that is, religious means in action, not in talking, not in show-off, not in the size of your beard, not in the size of your jacket, not in the shape of your hat, and not in your accent, and not in your language, and not who your parents are, and not what country you live in. This is all nonsense. Religion means, when a person says, I'm religious, before he says, he has to think 1,000,000 times if he's worthy to say such thing. Religion means actions. V'asitem otam. Remember this. Religious in the heart, Hashem says it's nothing. I'm not interested in religious in the heart. As a matter of fact, two Jews, one is religious in the heart, and one is not religious at all. The one that is not religious at all is not as bad as the other one. The other one that knows there is a God, he knows he's watching him. He knows everything in his hand. He knows he gives him oxygen. He knows he takes care of all his needs. And he dared to take what Hashem gives him and use it against him every second of his life. There is no bigger criminal than this person in a history. You understand? People have to know the truth. If somebody is like that, then he's a very, very serious criminal. However, someone who doesn't know anything, is not religious, never heard of religion. He doesn't necessarily knows what he's doing. He's not aware of what he's doing. He is not aware what religion means. There are people who never heard of religion, any kind of religion. Many communists in Russia was against the law. They never heard of religion. It was against the law. They raised them in university, whatever it was. So the Torah, first I'm going to read to you literally what it says, and then we go into the details and the comments. The Torah says, so if you're going to listen to me and follow my path and do the mitzvot, actually do that, not only speaks about it and not only think about it, right? If you actually do that, the Torah begins to give a list of blessings that we are subject to receive. Measure for measure. You're good with me, I'm good with you. You're bad with me, you'll pay the price. No other way to explain it. Simple Hebrew, simple understanding. Don't need to be a genius to understand, because the words makes simple sense. It's not too complicated. Some parts of the Torah could be complicated. You cannot move an inch without the explanation of the Gemara. But over here, can be the dumbest Israeli in Israel. All he has to do is to read Hebrew, and he already understands what's going on here. Doesn't need even the rabbi to explain to him. Simple, simple Hebrew. Everybody understand. They pretend they don't understand, but they cannot run from the truth. So this is the list. I'm going to give you a lot of rain. Israel, the rain in Israel is not like in New York or in South America, that it's raining all the time, or in Miami, every few hours from the humidity you have rain. No. The rain in Israel is subject to decision of Hashem based on the behaving of the people. How much they learn Torah, how much Lashon Hara they speak, how much charity they give, how much they pray, how much they cry, how they behave, the people, that determine the amount of rain that will fall in Israel. So rain is a part of reward and punishment system of Hashem. Next thing, Venatna haaretz yevula. The land will be very productive. Lots of fruits, vegetables, grow, quantity and quality. Big, nice, fresh. The worms doesn't touch it. Complete. Nothing gets rotten. Everything in life is timing, as you all know. Especially if you're in a stock market, you know, matter of seconds can put you up and make you rich for the rest of your life, or can destroy you financially for the next 20 years. Seconds. You hit the button now, or you hit it 10 seconds later, your life will never be the same. So it's all about timing. You cross the street. 1 second earlier, you're dead. 1 second later, you're alive. The situations in life that the timing was mamash matters of seconds. Literally seconds. Between life and death, between wealth and poverty, between health or horrible diseases. All kinds of things like that. Everything will grow. There's going to be lots of fruits. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to read the things that makes to our situation, it applies to us. You're going to eat your bread and be full. Not necessarily bread means food. There's not going to be shortage in food. You're going to sit in your land with peace, with no fear, with nothing to worry about. Why you eating your bread, you eating your food and be full, falls in the same verse like you're going to have peace of mind, security. You're going to sit in the land securely. What's the connection between the two? Because usually when a person has parnasa in Israel, he has no reason to leave Israel. In other countries, people can have parnasa and they still don't like it. They want to move out. Terrorism, problem, anti-Semitism, pogroms. Like, look at the Jews in France. Many of them very wealthy. Their life is a nightmare over there, with all the Arabs and the terrorism and what's going on. So a lot of them already moved to Israel. But someone in Israel is very wealthy. What reason he has to leave Israel? Besides parnasa issue, mainly, you know, you live all your brothers, all your sisters, synagogues, yeshivot, shul, holy land, mitzvah every second to walk there. What reasons you have? So the answer is, if you have enough parnasa, you're not going to live in exile. In exile, you'll never have rest, because it's a curse that I made in a world that the goyim will never give you rest. That's a curse in the Torah. And never give you a rest. No matter where you are, there will always be anti-Semitism. Always. So therefore, the only place you can ever be secure is in your land. And if I'm going to give you lots of food and vegetables and wheat and barley and everything you need, you don't need to go overseas to find parnasa. Today, you say to yourself, wait a minute, let's say there's no rain. All season, no rain. Big deal. We import water from Turkey. We import flour and wheat and barley and all that from America and from other countries. We can still live very, very wonderful life in Israel. As long as we have high tech, as long as we sell weapons to the whole world, as long as we sell diamonds, it's not so bad. It's a big deal, so we don't have so much rain. So we import 1 million bags of flour. It'll be enough. Today it's a little bit easier because you can import. You have planes, you have boats. But what about 2,000-3,000 years ago? How many bags of flour you can put in a boat before it sinks? So the idea is, if you didn't have it in Israel, it was almost impossible to import. You had to go somewhere and live among the goyim, no synagogue. Remember, there's no electric, no faucets, no bath, no showers, no cars, no trains, on a donkey. Where are you going, Moshe? No business here. Rabbi, look, I lost 50 pounds. I have to eat, no? Okay, where are you going with your donkey? I'll go back to Yaman. What is it? This is it. It was a very serious case. Not like today, business class, New York. Well, big deal. He has a brother somewhere here, comes to his mansion here, Ocean Parkway. Not so bad after all, But back in the day, it was mamash a death sentence. You have to leave Israel. You look at Avraham Avinu. There's nothing to eat. Look at Yaakov. They had to go on their donkeys with camels to go weeks in the heat, with danger, with robbers on the street. Have to go to a different country, take the money that they have, which is risky as it is, because they used to rob people on the road, to buy flowers. They're lucky Yosef was the king. What happened if Yosef wasn't the king? All the way to go to Egypt for weeks, coming back and forth to bring with you, 10 bags of flour. And then to go again. Obviously, you have to move there. So this is an example why Parasha and security goes together. Venatati shalom ba'aretz. Now we're talking about a different kind of peace. Security is what I said until now. Now we're talking peace. Peace meaning with the enemies around you. Nobody will shot missiles on you. No one will attack your border. You will always be secure. Remember, this is a list of rewards in this world, not in the next world. Next world is needless to say. In this world, if the Jews would live according to the rules of the Torah, this is how life would be. That's a promise in the Torah. Why we don't have all these things today? Because we don't live according to the Torah. That's it. No other explanation. Don't find excuses. The truth is black on white on a piece of paper in front of your eyes, in any language you want. Now wait, the list is long. Ushchavtem ve'en machrid. You're going to lay down, no sirens. You don't have to wake up with your little babies, 2 o'clock, middle of the night, go to the shelter, to a secure room, because now you hear sirens all over Israel, as it happened already 10, 20 times in the past 2 years. No bad animals will attack you, meaning animals used to come and attack the sheep, the chickens. I remember one time where I used to live before, where I live now, about 15 years ago, my neighbor decided to make a surprise to his children. What was the surprise? He got them a few chickens, roosters. He put them in a deck. Deck, it's protected. He put them in a deck, and he brought them in the evening when he finished work. The kids were already sleeping. He wanted the kids to get up in the morning, and they have little chickens on a deck. But he didn't know that Muncie have sometimes foxes. Muncie has real foxes. In Brooklyn, there are people foxes. They have a fox come, Fonzie, another attack. Everybody gets wiped out. Manhattan, Madoff, and all the rest. So, Shualim. But in Muncie, you have real foxes and bears. And the fox came to the 2nd floor. The deck is very, very high. Went all the way up. By the morning, the deck was all painted red, with design of white feathers all over. The fox swallowed all 4 chickens. How he was able to catch all 4, maybe it was more than one, I don't know. All 4 got a death sentence. So the kids had a bitter surprise instead of a nice surprise, but the Torah says bad animals will never attack you. When you come to a fight with your enemies, you're going to chase them and they're not going to chase you. When the battle will be face to face, they will go reverse and you go forward, not the other way around. 5 of you will be enough to fight against 100. So 1 soldier, 1 Jew per 20 enemies. And then the next verse, ורבבה ומאה מכם רבבה ירדופו. And 100 of you will attack 10,000. It's not the same ratio. 1 out of 20, right? 1 from 20, that's the first time. 100 out of 10,000, what is it? 1 to 100, not 1 to 20. Why is it? In the beginning, when the war just started, the enemies don't give up so fast. So it will be 5 for 100. As soon as they see that 1 Jewish soldier is enough against 20, they get very scared. So it's not natural what's going on over here. We see it's not nature. So they're gonna get even scarier, more scared, and then it will be enough that 1 of you can attack 100. So now, as we can move on, I will multiply you. I will keep my covenant with you. I will make my home among you, and I will never get disgusted by you. I will walk among you. I will be your God, and you be my nation. So you see that all of this is conditional. Most of the Jews take it for granted. Can you tell her to be quiet? So everything here, it's conditional. You be my nation and I'll be your God. That's only if you listen to me and follow my laws. I am your God that took you out of Egypt. I released you from slavery. I walked you to freedom. Now comes the list. If you are not going to listen to me and not going to keep all my mitzvot, if you're going to be tired of my mitzvot, if you're going to be disgusted from my Torah, and you will annul the covenant that I made with you, it's very, very clear, the language, I will do the same to you. I will do the same to you. I will bring fear on you. You'll be very, very fearful from what all these enemies around you. Behala, a mess. It's a big balagan, big mess. Everyone, it's such a mess that nobody knows who's against who. I will bring sicknesses, the shachefet ve'takadachat. Shachefet and kadachat, when the Torah was given to us, they didn't exist in the world. When did they come to the world? 130 years ago, when the first Zionist Jews, actually the first Jews that came to Israel were Hasidish. Yoel Moshe Salomon and his friends, Zerach Baranet, all Ashkenazi Hasidim. In Israel today, the biggest hypocrisy, the ignorance of the Israelis is screaming all the way up to heaven. When they see a Hasidish Jew, or Haredi, not necessarily Hasidish, they say to him, parasite, go to work, go to the army. Why do we need you religious people over here? But in reality, they're only living in Israel and breathing and eating in Israel thanks to the Haredim Jews who came to Israel in 1880 and bought all the lands from the Arabs because it was all swamps. They dried everything out and they started Petach Tikva, Rosh Pina, Rishon LeZion. They made cities in Israel. Without these Ashkenazi Jews that came from Israel, you would not have Israel today. This is the opposite world. Instead of saying to them, you are the kings of the land. Why? Without you, we would not be here. I would still be in Morocco, and he will be in Yemen, and she would be in Iran, and he will be in Poland, and in Russia. The only reason we came here is thanks to you. You were brave. You left your comfortable life in Europe. You came to a place of malaria and shachefet, and they were dying. People used to get, it was infected, they get an infection, and they used to die. The eyes were tearing, and people, they put cold ice as much as they could on their head, and they were dying. The Jews were dying. It was a horrible situation because of all the mosquitoes and the swamps. This is what the Torah says. The Torah says there will be time in history, these diseases did not exist in the time of the Torah. I will bring to you the shachefet ve'et hakadachat, and the Torah describes what's the symptom of that. It says that it's tearing the eyes. You cannot even open your eyes from how they burn. Umedivot nafesh, until they take the soul out. This is the Torah describes exactly what happened. When this has happened, as soon as the communists started to arrive to Israel, when they saw already the few cities that the religious people made, all the wicked people started to come from Russia and Poland. People who did not believe in God, people who hated Torah, people who admire communism. They came to Israel, took over Israel, put these Hasidim and religious people quietly in a corner and said, sit here and be quiet. We own the land right now. All these wicked Mechalelei Shabbat. And they came to Israel and they made Israel a second Russia. They brought the Russian Goyish songs. They made Istadrut, meaning you want to get a job, you need a red card. You cannot get a job unless if you have a communist red card. And when later the Yemenites and other Jews came, they forced them to work on Shabbat. You want to get a red card? Without it, you can never get a job. No one would hire you. It's a union. You cannot get a job. Saadia came from Yemen with 13 kids. No food, no nothing. They just bought him. No, he arrived. Some of them came on donkeys. My grandfather and my grandmother came from Iraq on a donkey all the way to Israel. There was no airplanes like today, 90 or 100 years ago. That's how it was. They started to come. Jews came from all over, through Turkey, through Egypt, through Yemen, through all these places. They arrived to Israel, and they said to them, you want to get a job? We'll help you. We'll send you to the kibbutz, to the moshav to work. But you have to first fill up the information, and you have to get a red card, and you have to go to the work there on Shabbat, 9 o'clock in the morning. You have to be over there in the field, and you have to work. Now remember, this is Yemenite. In case you didn't know, in the history of Yemen, there was never one Mechalel Shabbat Jew until today. From the minute Jews went to Yemen, for over 2,500 years. All the other countries, there were Jews that are not Shomer Shabbos, all of them. There's one country, the Jews never ever violated Shabbat until today. The few Yemenites who still left there, they're still all of them Shomer Shabbos. Why is it? Because over there they didn't know about modern and technology and advanced all kinds of things. There was work, there was Torah, there was no electric, no nothing. They didn't have a chance to get spoiled. They stayed exactly as it used to be. So now when they came to Israel, they told him, you want to find a job, you have to come on Shabbat. So what do you mean Shabbat? Shabbat, how can we work on Shabbat? They said to him, relax, Saadia, the Mashiach already arrived. Don't you see you in Israel already? You just kissed the land when you came, no? Don't you know the Tanakh said the Jews would only come to Israel when Mashiach arrived? The salvation began. We got back Israel. We have our country back after 2,000 years. You don't have to keep Shabbat anymore. Of course, they were not foolish to buy that nonsense, so they refused to work. But how many weeks you can be without a job? You have 13 kids to feed. You want to get a job, you can't get a job. It's Russia now, little Russia. So one Shabbat, he didn't go to work. Second Shabbat, he didn't go to work. By the third Shabbat, his children will die. It's pikuach nefesh. He doesn't know what to eat. It's nothing to eat. He can't find a job. They forced them to work on Shabbat, and they made all the religious Jews, one after the other, like goyim. They forced them to be like that. 2 generations later, their grandchildren in Israel, 90% of them are complete secular, and some of them hate religion. It happened not only to the Yemenite, it happened to the Moroccans and to the Persians and to some Iraqis. By the Iraqis and the Persians, they didn't wait until they come to Israel to destroy them. They went all the way to Iraq and to Iran, and they opened a Zionist communist school, boys and girls together, when all the Iraqi Jews were religious, and all the Persian Jews 100 years ago almost were religious. They made schools over there, they offer incentive, they offer all kinds of things. Slowly, a lot of the Jews started to go to secular schools, living the yeshivot of Baghdad in the time of the Ben Ish Chai, and after, Alliance, that was the school, Alliance, until today you have in Israel. Their schools are still exist 100 years later. And they started to make them anti-religion before they even arrived to Israel. That's why you have Iraqi Jews, there are already 6 generations in a row not Shomer Shabbos. When did you find by the Sfaradim such thing? Only by certain places, Bulgaria, Iraq, a little bit in Iran. You see the difference right away. By the Ashkenazim, when you meet an Ashkenazi Jew, you can divide it to 2 categories. You have the Ashkenazim that as soon as you begin to talk to them Divrei Torah, they're pure neshama, even though they're secular. They wake up, sometimes you see tears in their eyes. Doesn't matter, it can be from the kibbutz, can be from Tel Aviv, completely far away from Hashem. But as soon as he hears it, he wakes up like a torch. And it's very easy to make him religious. All you have to do is to show him that the Torah is real and that's what needs to be done, and right away is with you. Then you have the other kind. You can beg him a year straight. Show him one proof after the other, is talking to the wall. How come? The answer is, it's all depend how much zchut avot they have. If they only disconnected 1 or 2 generations from Hashem, it's still not a permanent damage. You can still revive them. Why? His grandfather was a big rabbi in Hungary. I one time gave a lecture in Great Neck to 200 people in a big house in Great Neck. And in that lecture, it was the controller of New York State, meaning all the financial of New York State is under his signature. Hundreds of millions of dollars is his decision. Where to invest the money of the pension plan, is in charge of the union, is in charge of the FBI, is in charge of the mayor of New York, in charge of the police, in charge of all the schools, in charge of the roads, in charge of the tolls. The controller, the treasury of New York State, 20 million people. He runs the money. He came to my lecture. He's also a professor for history and was a friend of Kennedy, the president that got killed in the same class. Best buddies. Kennedy got killed. He became the controller of New York State. He came to my lecture, very smart person, sharp brain. He knew how to argue. Most of the people have no idea what they talk about when they argue about Torah. But this guy knew a lot. Why? Because he knew a lot of history. He knew how to connect. He knew to ask the right question. My debate with him is online. You can see it on my website. The name of the lecture is Less Than 1%. That's the name of the lecture. You can hear him in the lecture asking a lot of questions. He asked questions, I gave him answers. By the end of the lecture, I asked him, what do you have to say? He said, I still have some doubts. I say to him, Baruch Hashem, as someone who came here as a complete atheist, 2 hours later, you have some doubts. We made a great progress, no? So he smiled. He said, yeah. I say, how about we meet one-on-one? I clarify all your doubts. I said, what do I have to lose? He said, I would love to. He came with his assistant. He said, I would love to. I said, okay. I thought, I would love to. It's a politician answer. But 10 days later, we met. We sat in a restaurant in Queens for 3 hours. 3 hours, one-on-one. By the end of the 3 hours, he said, that's it. I never believed that religion can be proven scientifically. I was sure it's a matter of fate. You left me no doubt whatsoever. My grandfather was a Satmar Chassid. That's when I realized why he's so open to hear. Person with such power in his hand, secular, married to non-Jewish woman, his children goyim. How is it possible that he's willing to leave all his busy schedule and everything and sit with me in a restaurant for 3 hours and ask so many questions and get so excited from the Torah? The answer is only 2 generations disconnected. His grandfather was a tzaddik in Hungary. But sometimes you speak to people talking mamash literally to the wall. Nothing penetrates. Now if you ask me, how do you know that what you just say is correct? How do you know that the more generations you are disconnected from the Torah, the harder it is to penetrate to the heart of the people? Who said such thing? You made it up. Prove it. Where does it say it in the Gemara? Who knows? First, you understand there's such things, chut avot. What did she say?
It says say that in the Torah, if you have 3 generations of religious children, they will stay religious.
חזקה, החוט המשולש לא במהרה ינתק. True, but that's not what I meant.
Does it go by the father or the mother?
This is what it says. Listen to this. Kyle, it's too hot here. Put the AC on.
Right, Rabbi. They did everything here.
No, you gotta put all of them on, not only one. There's 3. Okay. So, first of all, we know there's such a thing, zchut avot. Zchut avot means you get benefit thanks to the merit of your fathers. How do we know it? Shlomo HaMelech, when he came to open the doors of Bet HaMikdash, when they did the grand opening of Bet HaMikdash, the doors were locked. He couldn't open it. He mentioned the names of all the big tzaddikim. All the time, from Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu, everyone, the door didn't open. As soon as he mentioned the name of his father David, it opened up. Why? David is greater than Avraham? Not necessarily. He's bigger than Moshe Rabbeinu? Not necessarily. So why by Moshe it didn't open, by Aaron it didn't open, by Avraham Avinu, by Yaakov Avinu, by Yosef HaTzadik it didn't open? But when he got to his father David, it opened. Why? Zchut avot. We see it all the time. People that their parents were big tzaddikim, they have this zchut avot. But where does it say it? Clearly in the Gemara, the answer is, ואתם העוסקים עם הציבור לשם שמיים. The Pirkei Avot say, you that work with the public for the sake of heaven, you want to bring them closer to the Torah, מעלה אני עליכם כאילו עשיתם. I'm giving you the reward like you really created them. With Avraham Avinu, that he made the people religious, the Torah say Avraham created the souls, created. Gemara asks, Avraham created the souls? If he made a person religious, it counts like you created him from scratch. So now, the Pirkei Avot say, if you make people closer to the Torah, Ma'aleh ani alechem, I'm giving you reward just as you created them. אף על פי שזכות אבותם עומדת בידם. Even though what really made them religious is the merit of their fathers. And that's the answer to your question, if it's the fathers or the mothers. אף על פי שזכות אבותם עומדת בידם. Even though what really got them to come out of secular lifestyle and enter the Torah is the merit of their father. So now, if the father, the grandfather was a Rebbe or something like that, the zchut is very strong. It's not that far. But if it's 10 generation disconnection now, that's it. Son, grandson, that's already very far. It's very difficult to talk to these people. And that's how it goes. The same thing when you go by Sfaradim. You speak to a Syrian or Moroccan that are secular, it's not that difficult. Why? Maximum their grandparents were already religious. Not that far. Maybe the parents, maybe the grandparents. But you speak to the Iraqis, it's very difficult. Some of them are much anti-Torah. You see how they speak, you wonder, this is a Sephardi Jew? How can there be such thing? The answer is nothing to do with Sephardi Ashkenazi. It's only matter how many generations this particular person is disconnected from what the city where he came from. Because Jews are all diamonds, regardless if they're from Europe or from Arab countries. There's really no difference. The problem is how dirty is the diamond. Has a little bit stain on it, or it's already a thick mud. With a little dirt, you can still see it shining. With lots of thick mud, you don't even pick it up from the floor. So the Torah continue. The Torah say, if you're not going to listen to me, you get disgusted from my Torah, I will do the same thing to you. I'll bring those sicknesses. You will plant the trees and all the seeds in the ground, and your enemies will take over. וניגפתם לפני אויביכם, your enemies will win you like an epidemic. They will control you, ורדו בכם שונאיכם, your enemies. ונסתם ואין רודף אתכם. You will run not only when the goyim chase you. You will run when no one chases you, from fear, psychological fear. Where does it happen? Every second in Israel for the last 30 years. You get on a bus, as soon as Muhammad gets on a bus, half of the Israeli gets off. The first station. Why? Let's not take a risk. He has bags, who knows what's inside. That's how it is, everywhere in Israel. Everywhere in Israel. Before you get on a flight, you see a few Arabs sitting over there, they on the same flight with you. You call your agent, listen, there's a later flight. Why? Who knows? People live with fear. In Israel, the biggest shame right now is people that wait in the bus stops, they stand behind the bus stops, not in the front. Why? After they hit few of them with the car, in some of the bus stops, they put big cement protection in front of the bus that no car can hit them. So it protects the people on the bus. They put a big barricade like this. And places they didn't put, somebody took pictures. There is the bus stop. Instead of sitting on a bench and you have the glass and everything, you go around. People stand around it. When the bus comes, they come out from their shelter. Why? That's what Hashem say. You're not with me. You're not listening to me. I'm going to put such psychological pressure on you. Here is a chair right here. There's a psychological pressure on you. And this is what's happening right now. Next thing, if you're going, im telchu imi bekeri. What does it mean, im telchu imi bekeri? Keri comes from the word mikre. Mikre, unfortunately, it's a very common word in Israel today. Coincidence in America as well. What a coincidence. Wow, I got so lucky. What a great luck. It's my day today. All kinds of expressions like this that remove Hashem out of the equation. You know, it's everything coincidence. Wow, I got lucky. Look what I found. No, my friend, there's no such thing. I got lucky. There's no such thing, coincidence. The word coincidence is against the law. There's no such word. You have to take it out of the English and the Hebrew language. Whoever made that word, it's an illegal word. There's no such thing. The word coincidence, it's something that never existed even 1 second in a creation. If really the people that made the language, they knew they would never make such a word. You should not have a word like this in the alphabet. So what's going on here? So Hashem say, "Im tilchu imi bekeri." If when you begin to see that I'm beginning to give you punches, in the beginning it's not so hard. Like a little bit on the hand, a little bit over here. Wake up, stop it. Or you yell. The kid is getting a little nervous, but he's not so worried. Nothing happened, no big deal. Nobody died from a yell. So Hashem say, if you're going to say coincidence, I will increase the pressure on you. That you won't be able to say anymore. What would happen next? I will hit you, sheva al chatotechem. What does it mean, sheva? Sheva doesn't mean necessarily 7, like some people think. That will give us 7 times more than what we do. No. Sheva, it's like Sheva ipol tzadik vekam. The righteous person can collapse 7 times and still get back on his feet. The answer, he can collapse 1,000 times and get back on his feet. Why 7? 7, it's a way of speech. Sheva yipol tzadik vekam, meaning unlimited. More and more and more and more. That's what it means. So Hashem say, I will send a sword into your land, a sword of revenge. Cherev nokemet, nekam brit. A sword that revenge the circumcision, the covenant with Hashem. This is the revenge of the circumcision. What does it mean, revenge? Brit. What does it mean? Cherev nokemet nekam brit. Who are the ones who gives us all the problems? The nation of Ishmael that also did Brit Milah. Brit Milah, the Torah say, it's mitzvah that the reward for that is to sit on a holy land. This is the merit of Brit Milah, that's the reward. You're able to sit in a holy land. Now, if you remember what I said before, when all the communist Jews that were anti-Torah and anti-God, they started to come to Israel, they established themselves and took over Israel. They put the Haredim away, they put the Arabs that were living here and there, and they took over the place. What was their merit? The answer, Brit Milah. Even the most wicked people, the communists, they're still doing Brit Milah. Interesting. They're not keeping any mitzvah, no kosher, no Shabbat, intermarriage. Intermarriage, by the way, it wasn't something they agreed to do easily. It was rare. How do I know it? Because the son of Theodor Herzl is one of the biggest Zionists. He lived about 120 years ago. Herzl had a vision that the Jews one day will have their land. For political reasons, nothing to do with religion. They offered him Uganda with Idi Amin and his buddies, and he agreed. Which shows you he didn't care, Yerushalayim, nothing. Herzl wrote a diary, a book, that you can find it in a library in many languages. You don't have to believe me. Just go and read. It's called Alt Neuland, the Jewish land. And in his book, you can see a letter that he wrote to the Pope, to the Christian Pope, to the Catholic. And he said to him, give me some time. I will start a movement that would transfer all the Jewish children into the Christian church. That they all will become Christian, and that's how we will fight the anti-Semitism once for all. One more generation, if he was succeeding in his mission, nobody would left. Nobody would be left there. He sent his own children to learn in a church. He put a Christmas tree in his home. He had one son, he called him Hans. Good thing he didn't call him Adolf. He called him Hans. And refused to circumcise him. Refused to do Brit Milah. The family of his wife, they got upset. They were also not religious. But they told him, aren't you embarrassed? You don't even circumcise the Jewish kid. He refused to do it. One day, his son Hans married a Goya. And the Zionist leaders of Israel, Ben Gurion and their friends, sent Hans a very, very strict letter. Shame on you. You're embarrassing the whole Zionist movement. You dare to marry a stranger, a foreigner, someone out of our nation? Not because of religion. Because they held, we are one group. Don't bring strangers to the group. Nothing to do from Hashem or not. They didn't care about Hashem. Hans wrote to them a letter. Instead of telling me, shame on me, you have to be ashamed of yourself. Where were you all the years that my father were lighting his Christmas tree and sending us to the church when he refused to circumcise me? Not one of you made a peep. You all admired him. Now when I married a non-Jewish woman, you have complaints? Your complaints is for my father, not to me. And in the end, he committed suicide. That was his end, Hans.
He converted before. He converted before.
He converted to Christianity. Shem Yirachem. That part I didn't know. So he converted to Christianity and committed suicide. So these are the people who came to Israel. And what happened in the end? The people that came to Israel, one mitzvah they kept, Brit Milah, which is very interesting. I one time sent a letter to the most anti-religion politician in the history of Israel. Who is he? You see, you don't need to even have a doubt. All Israelis already know it. The biggest anti-religion, mamash to a horrible level that you can imagine, Tommy Lapid. That was his name. Zchuto yagen alav. So Tommy Lapid, he got into the Israeli Knesset and got 15 chairs from 120. That's a very sad success. 15 people that all they wanted is to destroy the religion. One time I sent him a letter. I said, if you're really an honest person, you have to be prosecuted for attempted murder for cutting a piece of the body of your son Yair. His son, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. His son is almost as bad as him. The only difference is that his son is fighting the religion with more class, not like a dog that barks non-stop. He was very arrogant, barking, cursing, very, very disgusting behaving. Where his son is more elegant. He pushed the knife to you without making too much blood spreading everywhere. Slowly, slowly, you know. His father was wild. But he does it, he sends letter, he fight. That's how he destroyed religion. But Baruch Hashem, Hashem kicked him out now. The religious people, they got the worst achievement now after 30 years, the worst. But they already achieved with the little that they got more than they ever achieved. There was only few Haredim in the Knesset. Many of them stayed outside. The little that came in, Shas went a lot down. The Ashkenazim have the same seats. It wasn't such a major thing. But they got a lot more power, and they also eliminated him. Well, we don't care so much about this. I just want you to get the point. So I say, why does he have to be prosecuted for attempted murder? If a person come and scream, I don't believe in the Torah, nonsense, it's not from God, there's no such thing. And one day he comes and cut his son ear. He takes scissors, 8 days old, his baby in a crib, in front of witnesses, he takes scissors and cut his ear. And the baby screaming, blood over there. And he smiled and said, wow, what a great moment. What would happen to him? Either jail for 20 years or psychiatric institution for 20 years. One of the two, you agree? Yes. So what is the difference of cutting a piece from the ear or cutting a piece where they cut in Brit Milah? What's the difference? Either way, it's a piece from the body, it's bleeding, it's actually supposedly damaging the body, no? What gave him permission to cut a piece from his son when he declared that the Torah is not divine? Therefore, you don't have permission to cut any piece from an innocent baby's body. Only reason we do it is for religion. You deny religion, you're a murderer. Of course, I didn't get an answer. Don't expect to get an answer, but the point was made. So they had the mitzvah of Brit Milah. This is what Hashem said. Who is going to take revenge on you, against you? The ones who also do Brit Milah. Who? The Arabs. Brit nokemet nekam Brit. But what's the difference between the Brit that the Jews made and the Brit that the Arabs do? What's the difference? The answer is, the Gemara say, mal velo para ki'ilu lo mal. If a person made Brit Milah and he doesn't do the second part, which is called Pri'ah, it's considered like you didn't do Brit Milah. The Arabs, since they do Brit Milah, not anymore. Back in the days, they used to do when they were 13. You know, after Ishmael, because Ishmael, their father, was 13 when Abraham circumcised him. So they follow Ishmael. But today they do it in hospitals like the Christians. But back in the day, they used to do it like that. But when you're 13, you cannot do Priya anymore. Only when you're a little baby. So therefore, the circumcision of the Arabs is incomplete. The Zohar, the Holy Zohar says, the minister of Ishmael came to Hashem and said, it's not fair. You gave a piece of the Holy Land to your children from Yaakov, but you do not give a piece of the land to the children of Ishmael. Since the children of Ishmael anyway doesn't have a share to the next world, and they did Brit Milah, something you have to give them over here. And Hashem gave them a piece from the land, which means they're sitting there. You cannot get rid of them, not the United Nations, and not Obama, and not two states, and not wars, and nothing can change the situation until Mashiach comes. When Mashiach comes, that's their end. But until Mashiach comes, there's nothing you can do. And this fear would continue, and all politicians wasting their time and money. So then the next thing Hashem says, when I throw you out of your land, the land will refuse to give any production. No trees, no vegetables, nothing can grow in Israel when my children does not live. I kick them out of the land. After the Jews were kicked by the Romans 2,000 years ago and they went to exile, there was a Jewish person, his name was Yosef ben Matityahu, who changed his name. He was another liberal. He changed his name to Josephus Flavius. Like today you have Yosef Cohen, he became Matthew Katz. You know why? He doesn't want the word Cohen. They know I'm Jewish. So Matthew, Matityahu became Matthew. Fine. So what happened? This Josephus Flavius described in his diary the days before the destruction of the temple and the Jews goes to the exile. He described it. And then 10, 20 years later, after the Jews already left, the difference in Israel from before and after. Before, he described the markets are full of big dates and huge fruits, and honey is dripping from the fruits, the land of milk and honey. And after the Jews left, he described the markets as empty, nothing to eat, no fruits, no nothing. Mark Twain, another anti-Semite goy, author of the books Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, very famous author, went to Israel 120 years ago on a journey. He writes in his book, all the way from the south to the north, I couldn't find one tree. Not even the sabra, the tree with the thorns, and the olive trees that can grow on rocks. On rocks. They don't need soft land, no water, no nothing. They grow anyway. Even those I can't find. What happened to the Holy Land? This Mark Twain wrote. Why is God so angry on the land? The Ramban, 750 years ago, came to Israel also after he had a debate with the priest over there and won the debate. They told the Ramban, if you would not leave tonight, tomorrow you won't be able to leave. They're planning to kill you from the embarrassment you gave it to them. The Ramban was lucky there was no Facebook yet. No YouTube. By then it will be too late. That night they'll kill him. But it took time until the word came out. So he had time to escape and he came to Yerushalayim. When he came to Eretz Israel, he saw that it's all desert and swamp, there's nothing. He wrote in his book, he said, I arrived to Eretz Israel and there's nothing growing here. We see the anger and the curse of God in front of our eyes. But in the curse, there is a positive point. That we know our Torah is true and divine. That the land refused to grow any trees or fruit to our enemies. The land of Israel only grow fruits and vegetables for Jews only. When the Jews sit in Israel, the land is blessed. When they left Israel, everything died. One time, I said it in a lecture 18 years ago. And there was the champion of the United States in karate, which is one of my first Bali Tshuva, back in the days. He gave me a piece with a satellite picture. The next time when he saw me, he said he laminated it. I still have it in my drawer. 18 years later, a satellite picture from before and after the peace agreement with Egypt. Before we gave Egypt all the south and the desert and Yamit and all these beautiful places, you can see from the satellite all green, everything green, and then from there to Egypt, all desert. As soon as we gave it to them, few years later, the desert goes all the way to Israel now. All the green area became desert. Amazing. You see right away, 2,000 years, nobody could grow anything in Israel. When these Ashkenazim came to Israel 130 years ago, in their books it's described, and this is what I learned as a kid in school in Israel. No one denied that fact, that the entire Israel was swamps. Swamps! Water that are standing, malaria, mosquitoes everywhere. When they came to the Arabs, imagine this. Yoeli Moshe Salomon, he comes to Ahmed. Yoeli and Ahmed are about to do a deal. Yoeli say to Ahmed, hey Ahmed and Mustafa, I want to buy all this area. The Arabs thinking, I didn't know the Jews are so foolish. Who wants to buy swamps? What are they going to do with that? They're going to bring their children with boats? What are they going to do with all the mosquitoes and the green on the water? So the Arabs say, okay, you know what, you want to buy? Tfaddal. Took rope. That's how it was. They went around it with rope. Not like today, every inch costs millions. He goes with a rope around, they measure it, $1,000. Collected money. Right away. They gave him the money, they buy it. The pieces that they bought from them today worth billions of dollars. Every square in Tel Aviv, $100 million and up. Israel is becoming the most expensive country in real estate now in the world. There are 20 neighborhoods in Israel. The prices over there are the highest in the world. The highest. There are apartments and buildings over there and houses, $30 million, $50 million. All the rich and famous people starting to buy property in Israel. Movie stars, singers. Even Roman Abramovich, the Jew, the Russian billionaire, bought an hotel, few floors, and he's going to make it his private home, 7 floors.
He's not Jew.
Roman Abramovich? The best I know, the last I heard, is a very proud Jew. If you know that his mother is not Jewish, then you're right.
Where he grew up?
Huh? In Russia.
No. What house?
I saw him kissing the kotel and praying with kippah.
Listen.
But Obama also did that. Huh? Maybe he's not Jewish. Who cares? I just told you he bought a place.
He's
Huh?
orphan.
Orphan?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He grew up in a very poor environment. He's a pure orphan.
Yeah?
Yes.
But you know, usually when Jews are adopting an orphan, they make sure to convert him or to make sure that he's Jewish. One of the two.
Next time he comes to the United States, I'll make sure you meet him.
Yeah?
Yes.
I don't think he wants to meet me. I'll tell you why. Because I said in one of my lectures, hopefully it never got to him, I said there are Jews who goes to dinner and spend $67,000 on a dinner when there's so many Bachurei Yeshiva who doesn't have what to eat. With the price of a dinner, he could have paid the whole yeshiva for 6 months.
Rabbi, he's not Jewish. He doesn't care what he
Doesn't care. I think he thinks he's Jewish. Ariel Sharon also wasn't Jewish, but he thought he's Jewish, the Prime Minister of Israel. He wasn't Jewish.
I'm arguing with this subject with you for 2 years, and you know my point. He is Jewish.
Okay. When the one is Jewish, you say he's not Jewish. When he's not Jewish, you say he's Jewish.
Because his mother was converted by the Reform rabbi. That's why he is not Jewish.
Exactly. Exactly. No.
And my point is, doesn't matter what the rabbi is, we are becoming the witnesses, and I can becoming the rabbi, being a witness of if she's living a righteous way as a Jew or not.
But she never kept mitzvot. If no one accepts mitzvot, there's no giur.
She wasn't converted, Rabbi.
Huh?
She was part of Russians. All the...
Vera the Russian. All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. He's not in the world anymore. Jew, not Jew. What difference does it make? Let's move on. So now the Torah continue. If somebody can save us with his AC here, I don't know what's going on. So has to be.
They disconnect.
You have to change it to cool. There is a way to change it to cool. I think you put the heat here. Now, shh. The Torah continue. After finishing all the list of the curses, there's one more curse that you don't even want to hear about. But I'll say it anyway. It's good for the knowledge to know. That the Torah says there will be days that from the crimes that you committed against me, women will have to eat their own children. Yedei nashim rachmaniyot bishlu yaldehem, the Gemara says. Women that were the most righteous and merciful women had to eat their own kids. How do you eat your kid? What, you cannibal? The answer is they used to hide in caves from the Romans. They're searching for them. They're hiding under the ground. There's no food. They had to throw a coin. Which family will have to give their own baby that they will eat them? That stories like this, that it happened in Yerushalayim. It happened 1,300 years after the Torah warned from it. To say that it didn't happen won't help us, because we know the reality that it did happen. But one more thing you have to know. In the Holocaust, when the Nazis were making the Jews marching for 3-4 days, barefoot on the ice, walking, you know how skinny they were. Every once in a while, someone would fall and die. There are people dying on the side of the road. Sometimes they shot them, sometimes they just left them to die. When I lived in Lower East Side, I had a neighbor, one of the biggest rabbis, Rabbi Ashri, very big tzaddik, Ashkenazi, big tzaddik, short man. Not once I saw him picking up his head when he walked in the street of Lower East Side. All the time he was walking like this on the street. Not to, God forbid, to see someone not modest. He was the rabbi in those days, in the ghetto, in the gas chambers, in all these places over there. And he has a famous book, what he had to answer to people in a time of this situation. Jews were still inside the worst situation in history. Some of them were still doing everything they can to keep the mitzvot. Everything. And what happened? One person came to him and said, Rav Ashri, I want you to tell me something what to do. They have a list of 100 of our boys that are going to be killed. My son is in the list. I managed to offer a German soldier a bribe that I hid somewhere under the ground, and I can tell him where he can find it. And in return, he will take my son out of the list and put someone else instead. But I want to know if it's permitted, because if I'm going to save my son, another Jew will get killed. Can I do it? So he told him, why are you asking me such a question? He has to answer a question. Torah, it's Torah. You have to say the law. You're allowed to save your son knowing someone else will die instead? Saving your son is your obligation. You have no intention to kill someone else. They're killing him, not me. But since it's going to be guaranteed to happen, do I have permission indirectly to cause to the death of another Jew to save my own son? It's a very serious question. So as soon as he said to him, don't ask me, why are you asking me this question? The man say, Rabbi, you don't have to answer. I got the point. He went and said to the German, no deal. And his son went and died. They're both children of Hashem. I'll save mine, what about the other? He's also a son of Hashem. This is the kind of people that we had, even though a lot of them were not religious already, unfortunately. But inside they were religious people, as the famous story that I said in my Torah and Science film in the end. I say that there was One time in Cincinnati, Rabbi Silver from Cincinnati, one day he sees on Shabbos, one of the members of his minyan comes in with another Ashkenazi Jew in his 70s. So when the Ashkenazi Jew came, either he took a yarmulke from his pocket or from the box, he put it on his head, which he wasn't religious, and he took a siddur. But when they were saying Kaddish and when they're praying, this old man, he knew how to pray. He knew when to stand, he knew when to sit, he knew when to answer. So obviously he has a religious background. In the end of the davening, Rabbi Silver came to him and said, "Good Shabbos, how are you? What's your name?" "Fischel. I realize that you know the halachot of the tefillah. What happened? In other words, why did you become secular?" So he said to him, "Rabbi, if you saw what I saw in the Holocaust, you also would leave the religion." So he said to him, "But many of the Jews saw exactly what you saw, and they never left the religion. It's a matter of choice." So he started to tell him a story, this Fischel. He said, when the Nazis didn't have what to do with us, not always there was work. So they didn't let us sit and rest. They had to torture us somehow. So they were making us stand in line 17 hours a day like this in the sun. One slice of bread, 17 hours, you have to stand, your back hurts, your knees. You cannot take the pain. If someone collapses or fall or faint, if you look at him, they shot you also. Someone faint, they shoot him right away. If you look at him, they shoot you also. He cannot move. Of course, he cannot talk. They walk back and forth. You have to just stand all day like this. For days like this. So he said, one time I was standing in the first row, and the guy behind me is whispering to me, "Fischel, Fischel." "Yes." He said, "In 5 more minutes, it's going to be sunset." So I whisper back, "What do I care עכשיו sunset?" He said, "We didn't put tefillin today, all day. They made us stand from early in the morning. We did not have chance all day to put tefillin." So he said to the Rabbi Silver, "You see what kind of Jews we were?" So he said, "Now let me tell you why I dropped my yarmulke and gave it up. There was one old man in a camp that smuggled a pair of tefillin. Only he had a pair of tefillin. Bishamayim, I have a pair of tefillin now, I can demonstrate. One pair of tefillin the old man had. Smuggled it somehow. By the time, 5 in the morning, let's say they have to start to work at 6 or whatever the time was, half an hour before, they were standing online, and everyone quickly put it and say Shema Yisrael, risking their life, obviously. They catch them, they kill them on the spot. But this old man was wicked. He did not allow anyone to put the tefillin for free. You had to pay him something. You had to give him a potato. You had to give him a half a cigarette that you pick up from the floor. You had to do something. You give him a button, something, a piece of bread. You had to give him something, otherwise he doesn't let you put tefillin. One old man came to him and said, I gave you everything I have nothing left. Let me put tefillin. He said, no money, no tefillin. If you're gonna want for free and they want for free, no. So everybody say, hey, leave him alone, he's an old man, he cannot get you anything. Let him put tefillin, don't worry. We won't say anything. No. So I say to myself, I see that religion is all business. I don't want anything to do with that. If that's what the religion is, I don't want anything to do with that. That day, I stopped being a Jew. Don't keep anything. So Rabbi Silver, with Siyata Dishmaya, Hashem gave him that moment. He told him, your ears should listen to your foolish mouth. Hundreds of Jews, as you just described, were risking their life every morning early before a horrible nightmare day in the camps, in hard work. Half an hour before, they're standing in freezing, in heat, to risk their life to put tefillin when they don't even have to. According to the Torah, it counts they did. They are nusim. But they still cannot go one day without putting tefillin. Hundreds of Jews in the worst condition in history did not give up tefillin and gave their last piece of bread or a little potato that they had for not missing the mitzvah of tefillin. You did not learn anything from them. The one wicked Jew, corrupted, that doesn't care about Hashem, only care about his own convenience. Everything you decided to learn from him, what about all the other righteous ones? And this guy, he realized, he started to cry. Said, Rabbi, you're right, it's all excuses. All excuses. Baruch Hashem, he got him to do tshuva. Before he died, his old man, he made tshuva. Sometimes all it needs is one sentence that opened the heart of a person. One sentence can change the life of a person. So, let's see now a little bit deeper, since time is running out, a little bit deeper into the parasha, what we can learn from here. First, we know in some communities when they read those verses, some people go outside of the shul. They go out, they can't tolerate it. Usually it's the liberals, the politically correct people, people who always say, speak positive, Rabbi, speak positive, Rabbi. Don't speak negative. I was in Shabbaton this Shabbat, and one Jew, very nice man, he heard me saying something. He said, Rabbi, better you speak positive. Don't speak negative. Speak positive. So I say to him, what do you mean? But if the Torah speaks negative about something, you want me to turn it into positive? He said, no, you know what I mean. So I said to him, let me ask you a question. I said to him, if I sent you a person to your house and is a very big robber, is going to wipe you out from everything you have in your house the entire Shabbat. As you think he's sleeping, he's cleaning your safe, cleaning your drawers, cleaning everything, your wallet. Then you call me Sunday, why didn't you warn me from this crook? I would answer to you, I only speak positive. Positive, positive. Why do you expect me to say a bad word about a Jew? Positive. Mitzvah or avera? It's a sin. What's a positive? Positive when the Torah speaks positive. Negative when it speaks negative. Nobody has permission to mix his opinion, what I like, what I don't like. We're not talking about an article in a newspaper here. What's the truth? So some people, they leave. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. The Chafetz Chaim said on those people, Mashal lema davar domeh. A person was warned not to go in a certain way. It's full of thorns and all kinds of problems and bad animals. The person was pretending he did not hear the warning. When he came to the area that they warned him, he put a sack on his head and started to walk. So his friend told him, what are you doing? He said, I don't want all the negative that they spoke about. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be affected by it. So he goes with it. Is it going to change his reality? Just because you put your head inside the ground. You know, there is an ostrich. What's the name of it? Ostrich. They have this, you go in a safari. They always come to the window and they're very scary. You're always afraid they're going to get angry at you and bite your nose out. So those, they have a habit. When you attack them, when a tiger comes to attack them or something, they get nervous. They stick their head into the sand because they so nervous, and the lion comes and take care of business. Why? The problem doesn't exist. Put your head in the ground, everything will be fine. You know, I want to tell you something. In some Ashkenazi schools in Europe, they used to take the egg of the ostrich and put it on the top of the Aron Kodesh. Who knows why? Huh? You ever heard it or no? I don't think they do it in Borough Park here. You know, there was one Rebbe on the Shabbaton, Hasidish, spoke Yiddish. I didn't understand, but someone translated to me. He told the joke, everyone was on the floor almost. He said when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he had a salt shaker with lots of Hasidim inside. So he came to a certain area, he spread some Hasidim, a little bit Lakewood, a little bit Monroe, a little bit Monsey, Mea Sha'arim. When he came to Borough Park, the cover broke. Everything spilled in Borough Park. But still, you can say the same thing about, you can use this joke for many things. Say, he had Persians inside the salt shaker. When he came to Great Neck, it spilled. Anyway, yeah, so the egg, why the Ashkenazim put the egg on top of the Aron Kodesh? The answer is because this bird has something unique about it. When it gives birth to those eggs, the mind, the power of the mind of this bird determine the sex of the baby, male, female, what's going to come out of the egg. So they wanted to teach their daveners, the people that come to pray, how much the power of good thought when you pray with kavana, how it can change the entire power of the prayer, that when you have the right mind or when you don't have the mind. Some people robotically, they come, שרי שבביתך, ידעו חסלה, שרי אדם שככה לו, שרי עם שהשם אלוקיו, ברכי נפשי את השם. Where am I? ברכי נפשי? What's ראש חודש? I have one text messages, שמע ישראל, השם אלוקינו, השם אחד. What is this? You know, that's how they pray. Some people even answer the phone in the middle of תפילת 18. שם שפתיי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתיך. Yes, Haman, Mustafa, I told you have to come to work on time. ברוך אתה השם מגן אברהים. by mistake he said. You come to pray, my friend, please put your mind into the prayer. So it says like this. What does it mean im? אם בחוקותיי תלכו, שתהיו עמלים בתורה. Because it said later on, ואת מצוותיי תשמרו. So it's already speaking about keeping mitzvot. So what does it mean, follow my laws? You give all your life to learn Torah as much as you can. Easy, hard, hot, cold, doesn't matter. You give your life for the Torah. Okay. The word im giving us a hint. Hint. The Torah could have used just the word Bechukotay telechu. If it's if, im it's if, but im it's aleph mem. What's special about these two letters, aleph and mem? 3 times the Jewish nation had a salvation in the last minute thanks to aleph and mem. 3 times. In Yetziat Mitzrayim, Aaron and Moshe. Aaron aleph, Moshe mem. In Persia, Esther and Mordechai. And the future to come, Eliyahu Mashiach. Eliyahu Hanavi Mashiach. If you're going to listen to me, Moshe and Aaron once will save you, Esther and Mordechai will save you, and Mashiach and Eliyahu Hanavi that will come before will save you. We have a question. Why do we have more verses of curse than verses of blessing in this chapter? We know that even though Hashem gives punishment, and sometimes a person gets what he deserves to get, but always the positive is higher than the negative, always. So why over here there's so many more curses than actually blessing? The answer is Rabbi Avraham ibn Ezra. You heard about him? One of the important commentators on the Torah. He lived 750 years ago. In many of the Chumashim, you have Ibn Ezra. He was very, very poor. So poor, sometimes he had days he didn't have what to eat. If you think, okay, Rabbi, that was 750 years ago. Today you don't have people like that. You know, I always say something that most people don't really think about. What do I say? They say that when the Chachamim needed rain, they came to the grandson of Choni HaMa'agel. Choni HaMa'agel had this skill that he can talk to Hashem, and Hashem brings rain shortly after. So Abba Chilkiah, he was the grandson of Choni HaMa'agel. He had the same skill. It was like in a family, that when they need rain, they come to him. So the Gemara say that two messengers from the Beit Din came to speak to him, but he was working in a field. So when they say hi to him, he didn't answer. They're trying to talk to him, he doesn't answer. Then he finished, he came to him, he said, how are you? He said, well, we came for, you know. He said, okay, follow me to my home. So he came to his home. His wife came out, all dressed up, nice, you know. And then his wife saw that she came with two guests. So she turned around, she went up the stairs, he went behind her, and they went behind him. And then they sat down, he gave them something to eat, and then he went to pray, and she went to pray, and the rain came, and that was the desert. But before that, they asked him a question. They told him, why when we came to you in a field, when we spoke to you, you didn't answer us until you finished to work? He said, because I'm working for my boss. If I begin to talk to you, I'm stealing from him X amount of time. I don't want to be a thief. I'm getting paid by the hour. So they say to him, but when we came home, your wife came out. Why your wife coming out like this, all dressed, outside to the entrance of your house? So he said, why is she dressing like this in the evening? You're not going to a chasuna or something. So he said, she always makes herself pretty to me when I come home, that I won't look at other women. This is 2,000 years ago. A person that the Gemara testified that he speaks to Hashem, 15 minutes later rain begins. Do you know one person like this in the world? Show me where he is. One person like this that guarantee. You come to him, Rabbi, we need rain, if not we finish. Come back in 15 minutes, water will come up to here. You know anyone like that? No such thing. But the Gemara said, this is how he was. And what does he say? If my wife won't be pretty for me, I will end up looking elsewhere. So to prevent it, she's making herself look very nice for me. So this is a proof to you that all these people think they're angels. Think again. You don't even reach 1% of his level. And if he, the holy man from 2,000 years ago, said such a thing to the Chachamim from the Beit Din, it's very big busha. At least hide it from the rabbis from the Beit Din. Why are you saying such thing, that I won't look at other ladies? Why? It wasn't politically correct. The truth in the face. So we learned from that another message. And then they say to him, but why you made your wife go first and you walk behind her? Don't you know that a man is not allowed to walk behind a woman on the street or anywhere, even if it's his wife? So he said to them, what's the alternative? That you walk behind her and I walk behind you? Better me walking behind my wife than you. After all that, why did I just remember that story? Every time I remember all of a sudden a story out of the subject, there's something that ignites it. Who knows why I remember now this story? What does it have to do with what we spoke about? The answer is, do you know today one Rebbe that works in a field and getting $10 an hour? Show me one like this in the world. He goes to work, comes in the evening, gets paid. They come to talk to him. I'm sorry, I work here. Do you know one Israeli that works in a field? Mustafa, Ahmed. Barely you find maybe a few settlers. They work in their field. A big, giant, holy man that speaks to Hashem, the rain falls. If he had today the skills, he would make $1 trillion cash, not billions. People today pay fortune to fake babot, standing online for hours, $26, 26,000, 18,000, 100,000. Pray for my daughter, pray for my son, give me a blessing. Most of the time, nothing comes out of it. Why? It's not exactly holy as you think. He, with such skills that everyone knew about him, it's proven, could have made millions from these skills today. But he didn't want to be a liar, a thief, take advantage on people. So he went to work for $10 an hour in a field, in the sun, with a shovel. Do you understand the difference between people 2,000 years ago to what the world became today? You get an idea. So why there are more curses than blessing? The answer, it's not necessarily true. Why? Because the blessings are coming in groups. It's a general blessing. You can break it to many little ones. When he gives you the blessing, if you pay attention to the kind of blessing in the Parasha, it includes a lot of good things in it. But when it came to the curses, Hashem specified it in details. Same thing, the Chachamim ask, why in the whole Torah, Judaism, prophets, Gemara, everything, there are so many descriptions how hell, Gehenom look. How the color of the fire, the name of the angels, what sin sends you here and what sin sends you there. And so many things in detail, what's the punishment of all the wicked people. But when he speaks about heaven, 2 or 3 sentences, that's it. Yoshvim tzadikim v'ne'enim miziv hashchina. The righteous people sitting in heaven with a crown to their head and enjoying the greatness of Hashem. That's it. What else do we know about heaven? We know 2 things. We know that we're going to enjoy the greatness of God, whatever that means. It's definitely better than any other pleasure you can imagine. And the second thing we do know is that all the pleasure of all the people, of all the generations, from the beginning of the world to the end of the world combined, is not equal to 1 hour of the reward of a righteous Jew in the afterlife. All this world combined, יפה שעה אחת בעולם הבא מכל חיי העולם הזה. 1 hour in the next world is greater than this entire world combined. Everything, all the pleasure that you have here, whatever you can imagine, vacation, good food, sport, trips, women, music, I don't know, nice houses, jewelry, children, whatever you can think of. Anything that you consider as pleasure of all the billions of people, of all the generation, in one huge mountain of pleasure, cannot reach the pleasure of the soul in 1 hour in the afterlife if you shomer Shabbat, if you dress modest, if you eat kosher, if you pray a little bit every day. Changing everything. Your eternity is going to be completely different one from another. But for the wicked people, everything is described from A to Z. I made one time a DVD about description of what's happening in Gehenom. It never went online. Now when I mention the word punishment, I get butchered. Imagine if I describe the punishments. What would happen? The answer is, I gave it to some brave people that can handle the truth. Only after I was convinced. Most of the people cannot handle. But believe me, if people would read what's going on over there, they will not believe such thing. So the question is, why Hashem described the punishment? Why the Chachamim describe the punishment so much? But when it comes to the reward, only few words. Why? The answer is fire, pain, punishment, everybody understands. And it makes the person scared, and he does tshuva, and he does not make sins. The reward, anyway, there's no words to explain it to a person that right now is body and soul. Why? How exactly Hashem is going to explain to you a spiritual pleasure in such a high level? You don't have any idea what he's talking to. It's like speaking to you Chinese. You have no idea. Excuse me. So I give you an example. It's like explaining to a blind person how wonderful the color blue is. You say to him, blue, it's like the sky. What's the sky? Blind person. It's like green. What's green? It's very relaxing. What do you mean? It's a color. How can I explain to you? There's no words to explain to him. Blind person. He never saw colors. You open up his eyes 1 second. You show it to him. Close his eyes back. You already know in his mind. If he never saw colors, there's no way to explain to him such thing. How are you going to describe it? This is the problem here. There's no words to explain to a person how great is this reward. But there are 2 sentences that made it pretty clear. One is, the righteous people sit with a crown to their head and enjoy the greatness of Hashem. How can it be bad? Enjoying the greatness of Hashem. Miziv Shechina, it's like someone is licking the honey from the fruit. Ziv Shechina. And the second thing is what I just said. All the reward of all the people cannot be combined to 1 hour of your reward if you be righteous. How can you go wrong? What can go wrong? So the Torah says, "Ve'achaltem lachmechem lasova." You'll be full. You eat little bit, and you already be full. From here we learn that to eat a lot is not a blessing. Sometimes a person says, Baruch Hashem, Hashem made me rich. I eat good. 500 pounds, like this. He walks, he can't even reach the edge of his belly. But he's happy. Why, Moshe? Why diet? I love to eat all day. But the Torah doesn't say it. The Torah says you will eat very little and it will be blessed in your stomach. 8 hours later, you're full. Meaning to eat a lot is not a good thing. Here from the Torah. Because if it was good, then why are you getting blessed after 2 bites you're full? It's not good. You're not enjoying the food. So from here you see, to eat as less as possible, it's a blessing. To eat too much, it's a curse. It's not. Same thing, let me ask you a question. To change your clothes, it's a blessing or a curse? If you sweat and smell, of course you must change your clothes. But my question to you is, in the Torah, do you think Hashem is interested that the Jews will change every day a suit, every day something new, or no? What do you think? No. In the Torah, it says that the Jews were walking with their clothes, and the cloud were coming and making laundry to the clothes as they are dressed already. They don't ever need it, never smell. It always have beautiful, wet clean, dry clean. Everything's beautiful. So Hashem says, when Hashem wanted to brag about all the greatness that He did to us in the desert and how much we owe Him, one of the things He was bragging about is 40 years I did not bother you to change your clothes. Imagine you come to a woman today, Flatbush, Borough Park, Long Island, doesn't matter. You say, Miriam, Hannah, Sarah, I have news for you. From now on, you have a little shot you get. You will never sweat. Your body will never smell. And you will never have to change your outfit for the next 40 years. So you're crazy? What am I going to do with all the closets full of things? Every day I buy something new. What? You mean no more shopping? Forget about it. And if you tell her you cannot buy shoes, I want get right now, not tomorrow. Ay, 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 ay. Now, it finished the parasha, אלה החוקים, those are the laws, והמשפטים והתורות. Those are the laws and the sentences and the Torahs, plural. Torahs, Torot. Torot in Hebrew means more than one. 2. Which Torah? Torah שבכתב, Torah שבעל פה. Oral Torah, written Torah. When the Torah says, "Im bechukotay telechu," if you follow my chukim, שתהיו עמלים בתורה. What does it mean? Listen to this. כך היא דרכה של תורה. This is the way of someone that wants to learn Torah. Listen carefully. פת במלח תאכל, bread with salt you will eat. No sushi, no steaks. Michael, no sushi. פת במלח תאכל. Bread with salt. Listen. מים במשורה תשתה.
But bread is okay.
Wait. מים במשורה תשתה. Water with like some kind of a bucket. You have water, Baruch Hashem, you're happy. על הארץ תישן, you sleep on the floor. חיי צער תחיה, you have disturbing lifestyle, not convenient. ובתורה תעמל, but you put all your efforts into learning Torah. ואם אתה עושה כן, and if you do as we said, אשריך בעולם הזה, וטוב לך לעולם הבא. How lucky you are in this world, and needless to say, in the next world. Now let me explain. The Torah didn't say that someone that wants to learn Torah must eat only bread with salt. No. That he is ready, if that's the only way he can learn Torah, and the yeshiva they serve bread and just bread with salt, that shouldn't be the reason he would not go there. It's only water there and no Coca-Cola and no squeeze orange juice with drop of vodka, Rabbi. So how am I going to come to the yeshiva? Well, you don't have whiskey a little bit? Ma? To relax from all day? Okay, I don't come. No air condition. Yes, air condition. Yes, good food. No good food. You're ready to live with bread and salt, with water, nothing else. You know bed. You sleep on the floor. You live difficult life. You put all your life in the Torah. How lucky you are in this world, and needless to say for the next world. Now I want to ask you a question. How lucky you are for the next world, we already understand. We know everything is for the next world. But what does it mean how lucky you are in this world? Who wants to eat bread with salt all his life? Drinking only water from the water from the faucet? 99% of the Jews refuse to drink. You're drinking from the faucet, Rabbi?
They found bugs in it.
You're drinking from the faucet? What happened? Did I kill someone? I missed something here? I don't want to tell you the taste of the water when I was a kid in Israel. You saw it coming brown from the faucet, and there was no water in bottles. No one thought about this idea yet, 40 years ago. Especially when I used to go to my grandmother. She lived in an old neighborhood. The pipes were from the time of the Turks. So when the water came, oof, it was so sour, horrible. There's nothing else to drink. When the Israelis go to India, sometimes they don't have water in bottles. Do you know how the water in India? Poison is sweet compared to the water there. And the glasses are made also from sand. Only bottles they buy. The parts in the world, that's what you drink. What do you think you drink? So the point is, okay, I understand why you're lucky in the next world, but why it say Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh? What? What kind of life is this? Ashray ba'olam hazeh. What do I have in this life? Well, a slave eats better than me. The answer, Habibi, this is Torah. Torah say if you have two options in your life, to eat caviar, to eat steaks all day, fish, this, that, vegetable, all kinds of things. This one, that one, well done, this one. Or simple food, down to earth, just let me eat, be healthy and finish. This life is much better. Why? The more you spoil yourself, the less connection to the Torah you're going to have. One comes on the expense of the other. They cannot go together. You eat steaks with a fork and knife, wow, $80 steak. And then you think you're going to understand the Gemara and be a big chacham? Ben Zion Abba Shaul said that when they were young, Rav Ovadia, Yosef and him in Porat Yosef Yeshiva, when the Jordanians were shooting missiles in Yerushalayim, in Porat Yosef, in the old city, 3 days they didn't have what to eat. He remembered this as it was yesterday, that 3 days all they heard in the yeshiva, the stomach is grinding from everywhere, like frogs. 3 days, everyone was learning, not one complaint. When the Ashkenazim escaped from Europe to China, to Mir Yeshiva there, the Mir Yeshiva, they escaped. The heat and the humidity in China, words can't describe it. They could faint. They couldn't resist. So the rabbi said to them, I allow you to take the shirts off and lay on the floor, because the floor is always cold there, because it's made from stone. Otherwise, they couldn't learn. So imagine these big chachamim were laying on the floor with no shirt and learning by they sleeping that they're not going to faint, that they'll be able to learn. That was the only way to learn. A son of one of the rabbis that was there in China told it to me personally, that his father told him that sometimes there were hot days like this. That's how much they gave for the Torah, not to stop learning. People who think that you can become a giant chacham, smoking cigar, drinking good scotch, wearing $10,000 suit, driving a Bentley, having a private jet, and at the same time become Rav Ovadia or Rav Eliashiv or Rav Steinman, you are living in such a dream. There's no words can describe in what dream you're living. The only way to have strong, established connection to Hashem is to be down to earth. Simple, down to earth, no fancy schmancy, jewelry, tons of makeup, purple, pink, yellow. That's not Hashem, Habibi. Hashem, you heard, pat v'melach, bread with salt, the best. Water, the best, not Coca-Cola. No, I cannot drink water. Has to be something in it. Mix it with Coca-Cola. No, Rabbi, come on, look at the kids. I need it, please, Abba, I need it. No, you don't need it, you want it. Okay, so I want it, but give it to me already. Please. He doesn't get it, what does he do? Run to his mother right away. She will already go behind your back and give him the ice cream. Yeah?
We're not on the same level as back then.
No, it's applying for today. What do you think? Today, it applies today. What?
It's hard to get to that.
You have to understand. There's one thing to know Torah. There's one thing to learn Torah. But to be a big Talmid Chacham, somebody very serious, this is the condition. Everyone who doesn't want to be ready to live in such condition will be an average Chacham. He will know a little bit here and there. He'll be able to say, understand a little bit what you talk about. But a complete Chacham, only someone who gave his life for the Torah. Rav Ovadia Yosef was learning with Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul Chevruta. Rav Ovadia has a photographic memory, so he remembers all the pages. Rabbi Tzion, his specialty was that he's very deep in his thinking. So it's a very good combination. Rav Ovadia had money for the bus back and forth. His father had a little grocery, so he could afford to pay for the bus. Rav Tzion was so poor, even for the bus he couldn't afford. So Rav Ovadia, because he loved the Torah so much, he was taking the back and forth ride. He would go with him on the bus, pay for him every day, that they can learn on a bus, and they would walk an hour back home learning with no books. Rav Ovadia said the Gemara, and they begin. You understand? He said the whole page, and every time he's not sure, Rav Tzion maybe didn't remember a word here and there, he remembered all the words. And they learn, and you don't feel the way. Yesterday somebody called me, it was 1:30 at night when I left. I had 2 lectures. 1:30 I left Queens. At night I'm supposed to be home in an hour, so 2:30 I should be home. So they first text me, when is a good time to call? I said, now it's the best time to call. Why? The phone stopped ringing. 1:30 at night, you have opportunity without call waiting every second. I answer, if you're up, call now. They were up. So they call. The whole conversation was maybe 40 minutes, half an hour. By the time I hung up, I was in my driveway. I didn't realize, I'm home. You don't feel. You know, sometimes when you drive, traffic, this, that. 1 second, the conversation was over, you're home. קפיצת הדרך. That's how they used to do it. They used to walk in the streets of Yerushalayim. They're learning. He pays for him one way. Doesn't care that he pays every day for him. Why? Or chevruta or mituta. You have chevruta, you have life. You don't have chevruta, better not living. So who cares about the ride of the bus? You understand? You know, speaking about sleeping on the floor, I'll tell you one last story and we're finished. There used to be a very big Ashkenazi Rav Iser Meltzer. Iser Zalman Meltzer. A very big Rosh Yeshiva in Europe. When there was a war, and the missiles were falling around his yeshiva, and he didn't want to take responsibility that one of the kids would get killed, one of the teenagers. So he sent them home. He said to them, I want you to go home. When the missiles stop, come back to yeshiva. So everybody went home, and one of the kids, his name was Eliezer. He arrived home with a train, and his mother saw him in the middle of, well, what are you doing home? You're supposed to be in yeshiva. No telephones, no texts, nothing. You know, he had to go all the way home just for her to know that he arrived home. So she said, what are you doing home? He said that the Rosh Yeshiva said that until the war will be over, everyone will stay home. So she said, what kind of Rosh Yeshiva is this? He doesn't know that the best protection is the Torah? Well, you're going to be more protected at home? No, he doesn't want to take responsibility. I don't care, go back to yeshiva. But they were so poor, she couldn't afford to give him more money for the train. So, and you know, so she said, but how am I going to go? We have money for the train, and nobody is there. She said, I don't care, you can walk. Just in case you didn't know, in his bar mitzvah, his mother just sent him a pair of tefillin. Nothing. No kiddush, no party, no music, not $500 a person in a Plaza hotel. Moishe, we're going to see you in a bar mitzvah. You're coming from London, right? Of course. Please don't forget to send the chauffeur to JFK to pick us up. Eliezer got a pair of tefillin. Lucky he had this. Mother was collecting penny by penny. Finally, he walks back to yeshiva, 1 week walk with a big bag on his back. A teenager. He arrived to the yeshiva. The Rosh Yeshiva saw him after a week. What do you have? Didn't go home? Where do you come from? I went home, and I came all the way back from home, and I walked. What? My mother got upset. She said, the Torah is the best protection. What is this? I come back home. I had to listen to my mother. The Rosh Yeshiva felt so bad that because of him he had to walk a week. He took out 200 ruble. He said, I want you to do me a favor. There was a lot of money back in the day. I want to buy your shoes from you. I want to buy these shoes from you. Go buy yourself different shoes here somewhere. There will be plenty of money for shoes and for leftover. Why do you need these shoes? They're all ripped. He said, this is for me something very precious, that a boy walk a week to come back to yeshiva to learn Torah. I want these shoes. He bought the shoes from him. This boy later became Rav Eliezer Man Shach, the head rabbi of the religious world. And he lived 107 years. And the shoes went to Rav Kotler from Lakewood Yeshiva, that was married into, I think, to the daughter of Rav Iser Zalman. There's some kind of a connection there in the family, son-in-law. So he inherited those shoes. And if I remember correctly, Rav Zilberstein, in his book, in one of his books, maybe Alen Shabeach, brought that story, that today the shoes are next to the silver in a wall unit. Next to the silverware and the candlelights and the menorah, 2 shoes like this. What is the shoes? These shoes worth billions. That's the shoes of a person that walked 1 week with a bag on his neck to come and learn Torah when the missiles are falling. And he didn't give up. All the Gdolim, you have stories about them. Rav Eliashiv was learning, Mea Shearim. The Jordanian shot a missile directly to the shul, to the place where he was learning. The place is going on fire. Everyone ran. Rav Eliashiv was so deep in his Gemara, he didn't even realize. Guess what happened a few minutes later? Another missile came. There was a tower full of water. You know, in cities, they have big tower, tons of water inside. Tons, thousands of liters, thousands. For emergency, they always have this. One missile hit it, flood came out the entire neighborhood and put the fire off. He was still learning. Ovadia Yosef, on Friday night, when they praying, you know, sometimes they sing, he doesn't waste a minute. Okay, you want to sing 5 minutes? He learn another half a page. What happened? There was a war. The Jordanians, Syrians, whatever. Everyone ran home. He was so deep in the book, he stayed until midnight, Friday night. He's in the ladies section, because he didn't want people to see him that he's learning when they're praying. So he went to the ladies section. Everyone was looking for him. His father, he had a grocery store. So his father was walking with the rabbi, running away to look for Ovadia, little Ovadia. Where is he? Where is he? Finally, in the end, he finished to learn. He was walking home. He doesn't even understand. There's a war. Everyone is hiding in bunkers in the house. His father came. He wanted to give him such a smack. The Rosh Yeshiva told him, the rabbi said, don't dare to touch him. You cannot touch somebody like this, Chacham like this, that give his life for the Torah. When he was a teenager, he broke his 2 legs. And one Rosh Yeshiva, Ashkenazi, how does he know Ovadia, the Sfaradish boy? He decided to go and visit him in a hospital. So his student told him, what is special about this little Sfaradi kid that you have time to live what you do, you're an important Rosh Yeshiva, and go and visit this boy. So he said, this boy is not just a boy, I'm sure he's going to be one of the biggest rabbis one day. So they asked him, how do you know? He said, when I heard how he broke his legs, I have no doubt that he's going to be one Gadol b'Israel. He said, how did he break his leg? He climbed on a ladder in yeshiva all the way to the top shelf to take a book. As he took the book, he was standing on the ladder and he started to learn and learn and learn. And then he forgot that he's standing on the ladder. When he finished after half an hour, you know how it is, you forget where you are, you're standing, started to walk and the ladder fell and he fell and broke his 2 legs. So when that Ashkenazi Rosh Yeshiva heard, so I have to see, he was curious, who is this boy that loved Torah, forgot that he's on a ladder, is so deep in the Torah. And in the end, this is how it was. They say a story, one time the Yeshivat Brisk, when Rabbi from Brisk was a huge Talmid Chacham. They came on Shabbat, what happened? The mouse came back? One time there was a mouse here. Don't worry, he's dead already. We finished the year on him. The Kaddish finished. So, one time the Briske, on Shabbos, they were coming out from learning. So he always used to run to speak to one of the Talmidim. He was always in Torah. Well, what did you learn today? What did the Rebbe say? So he said, we have a very big kashya, such a hard question. For 3 days we're trying to find out. I was telling him, I was 18 years old. He said, what kind of kashya is this? This is an Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi, for 3 days we try to find the answer. He said, I'll show you, it's Yerushalmi, it's clearly over there. He went to showing Gemara in Yerushalmi, they couldn't believe it. The control that he had to be a judge in a court when you're 20-something years old, it's not so simple. That means you learn a lot of Torah already. Today, there is one more person like this in the world. Just when it looked that no one will ever be like that, there is one Baal Tshuva, young rabbi, 32 years old. You never saw in your life such a thing. Every page in a Gemara, every page in a Rambam, every page in Shulchan Aruch, every page in a Zohar, every page in any book you ever heard the name of it, he knows by heart. Do you believe me or no? You don't have to believe me. All you have to do is to listen to one of his lectures and you know what I'm talking about. His name, Rabbi Meir Eliyahu. Remember this name? Already, in my humble opinion, he already know what rabbis 100 years old knows. I'm talking the biggest rabbis in the world. He already know. He has photographic memory. In one lecture that he gives maybe 100 different sources in average lecture. spontaneously. He does not prepare anything. Anything you ask, he will give you. Over here, it's like this, tak. You cannot keep up. Tak, like machine guns. Speaks faster than machine gun. You know how machine gun shoot? Sometimes he has speeding urges. You need to rewind it 5 times to understand what he was saying. The brain is faster than the mouth. So the Jewish nation have some future after all. It's one thing, it's a gift from Shamayim, you have such a memory. But I was always wondering how he became like this. So this week, I had a lecture with him, last week, together here in Queens. He spoke, and then I had a lecture somewhere else, and I arrived. So the person that knew him from the time he was a rabbi in Florida, he told me one time I went to his room, and I saw on the wall hundreds of stickers. All day he stands by the wall, testing himself. Like this. A person gives his life for the Torah, Hashem opens up the head. 12 years, Baal Tshuva, 12 years he already know everything Rav Ovadia knew, he knows this boy. 32 years old, just recently got married. You never saw, I'm telling you never saw such thing. Incredible. Phenomenal memory. And you know what it is, when you see somebody like that, then you know how much the brain of the human being is capable of. Yeah, how to believe such thing. But just to remember all the pages and to know every page by heart, still to have to sweat many, many years to know how to answer questions, you need experience. It takes time. Still, you always have to go to the oldest rabbis because they've seen everything in life. The young one, they still don't have experience, but the potential is incredible. Be'ezrat Hashem, I wish each one of you to know half of what he knows. You'll be more than happy. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.